Well, hey, everybody, and welcome to the debrief with your friends here at Sandals Church, where Pastor Matt is giving real answers to tough questions. I'm sitting here today with our friend Jono, who's joining us for the show this morning.
Hey, guys. How we doing?
And we've got, as always, the PMB.
Yeah, so Jono looks really friendly from the neck up.
Thanks, man.
But when you look at his outfit, which you can only see if you're watching online, it's like he's got tactical gear on and he's going to kill a buck or something.
Here's the thing. Arrowhead,
which is where you live.
Which is where I live. Yeah. Arrowhead campus, shout out. We do things a little different up there.
Yeah, apparently
you got to be
kill
ready.
Animals after the debrief.
Yes, you're in it. I mean, but seriously though, 2 weeks ago, I had a huge bear on my deck.
What?
Huge. I woke up, massive bear, come out. I didn't get to wrestle him. I wanted to, but my wife's like, no, don't do it. So
no, don't do that. Do you have good life insurance policy?
I do, actually.
Yeah. Does it cover bears?
I have a great life insurance policy, and here's why. So my wife's next husband can live in comfort and not have the stresses that I've had. That's why I have taken care of him. I've thought about him.
Okay.
Yes.
That's good.
Good job. Way to think about.
It's the details.
Yeah.
The noticer. That's right.
I know.
That's good.
Right.
Yeah, but no, we love it up there, living in Arrowhead. Can I do a shout out to my small group?
Yes.
We love listening to the debrief, so I love getting to be here.
Well, don't screw the episode up.
Well, I know. It's no pressure, right? But
there's tremendous pressure.
There, I feel it right now.
Yeah, there's a tiny camera pointing in your face that everyone's watching right now.
Don't think about it. No, I love my small group. They're great. We're meeting tonight. I'm excited about these questions. They're good.
Yes.
They're good questions. Have
you ever watched the Joe Rogan podcast?
I have. Yes.
Okay, I tried to watch it, but he cusses a little much for me, and
he's a pretty colorful guy.
I can't handle that it's 4 hours long. Tyler will listen to it.
Well, that's what when you smoke marijuana, time is irrelevant.
Yeah.
That is a thing. He has some good stuff though.
Some good stuff and some
good, but then they get a little.
Yeah, he's like Trump.
Yeah.
When he's right, he's right. And when he's wrong, he doesn't know.
He does a lot of shock and awe. That is true.
Right. That is true. Please hold your questions, Joe Rogan fans. We're not comparing him to.
We're not. Yeah.
I would love to be in Trump's cabinet. Just be like, yes, yes, and then just be the tapper, like tap his shoulder. No,
not this one. No.
That's no.
Yeah,
I've had experience in some.
Okay, yes. Oh, okay, you know what?
I very kindly just sent a text.
It's been a good run. Everybody, give a shout out to Stephanie. She's no longer going to be with us.
I said no too many times.
Oh my gosh. Okay, just for the record, Stephanie has texted me after I've made some tweets.
Yes, and said, hey, we're gonna pull that one down.
Here's the thing.
I know what you meant, but how it's gonna come across is
you need someone in your life like that. Though. You do.
We all do.
Yeah.
Everyone does.
Yeah, it's true.
Everyone needs like, hey,
Here's the thing.
Yeah, I know you're not a racist, but
but what you said will sound that way.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a problem.
I know you don't hate all people, however.
But your tweet, maybe there was a typo. I don't know.
That's the connection my wife and I have. She's a high 8. I'm a high 9.
Whoa.
And so we balance each other out. It's good.
Yeah.
She super direct.
You and you submit.
That was actually a really good conversation in our small group when we went through the self.
Yeah.
Real
Serious about you. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's been so long now. We went through the 8 and I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be good. We're going to really unpack some stuff. And our 8s, man, they came out swinging.
Yeah.
I wasn't ready for that as trying to lead this thing. And it got heat. It was good. We actually had some really good
If someone is
connections.
not bleeding at the end of a small group with 8s, then it wasn't real.
We came together. That actually built us as a group.
You just got to push to the 9 that's terrified of.
Can you give me a little more volume?
That's right.
So my wife is a counterphobic 6. And so the difference between, that's good, a counterphobic 6 and a regular 6 is a counterphobic 6 attacks what they're afraid of. And so they can be confused as 8s. But the motivation is not control. It's fear. And so that's been something that's really been helpful. So when my wife is afraid, watch out. So because she comes out, she's like a mama bear.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
that makes sense. But you don't want to mess around with that.
All right.
No. All right. Before we kick off the show, I do want to say that this episode is sponsored by our friends over at Gateway Seminary. They've got a lot of great programs, a lot kicking off in the new year. So if you want to check that out, head to gs.edu.
Yeah. Amen. Love that school. Great school.
Sweet.
Have you seen it over there by Ontario Airport?
I've driven by it, but I was just at a conference and they had a table set up. And from listening to the podcast, I was like, I'll go check it out. Let's go see and meet some folks over there. And they were really nice, really great.
Great
good programs.
It's good for me.
Really good programs. It was cool. I've passed on the information to some folks.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Nice.
So you both are in small group, right?
Yes.
So you
Yeah,
said you
I'm in
are.
small group, yeah.
So we had. So I don't know if you're our debrief listeners are not in a community group, but get in one.
Yes,
Don't pray about it.
absolutely.
It's literally what it means to be a Christian is, you've got to work it out in small groups. And so that's just a reality.
Yes.
So last night, oh my gosh, the questions, which just so you know, I write the questions and then they are rewritten.
Our group's team
Our group's team rewrites them.
takes
So
that great content.
Again,
Yes.
that
Turns
person
it
you
into something
need.
well, because I write
Yeah.
the questions after I'm done with the sermon, and
Yeah.
I'm low
can
energy
tell
at
you're
that
done.
point. Yeah. So, but man, last night was intense and real, and the thing that shocked me the most was my small group right now is everybody's Christian. They're all solid Christian, which is not true of every group.
Sure.
And it doesn't need to be that way. But I was amazed at how hard it was for long-term mature Christians to answer the question, what is marvelous about you? What has God made in you that's marvelous? And literally, I'm watching my group just scared to say what they think it is. And me, I'm like, I'll go first. I'll tell everyone what's marvelous about me. And that didn't help anybody. And so it just breaks my heart that as the church, we've not done a good job at communicating. Like we are made in the image of God. Even in our fallen state, there's something in us that reflects the glory of God. And that just breaks my heart, for people. And so I'll just tell you guys what I shared, and then you can give me your thoughts. But one of the things that I think is marvelous about me, and I did not always know this, but as I encounter leaders like me in my same position, one of the things that's extraordinarily different about me is I really care about people. I didn't know that was a thing. Like I thought, and so just so you know, the reason it's so hard to discover what's marvelous or gifted about you is you don't think it's extraordinary because it's natural for you.
Because you think everybody's probably that
you think
way.
everybody.
Right.
Through the years, I've learned that even most pastors do not like people, do not love people, don't care. And I'm like, and so I that's what I shared is I think that's one of the things that God's wired me is I genuinely care about people, even people I don't like. I care about them. I want the best for them. And so I was hoping that would get the ball rolling, and it didn't. And so what it turned into is me going around and saying, here's what I see about you and you and you. And so it was interesting afterwards. So here's how my wife is marvelous. And my wife is this anomaly, right? She is both creative and organized. And it's just so rare. It's so rare. Yeah. So my wife can come up with a concept and finish it.
Wow.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like, it's amazing. I mean, she loves creating and planning and organizing. It's bizarre.
Yeah.
And so let me put you guys on the spot.
Sure.
Oh, Lord.
I'll go with you first. I can just, Stephanie's eyes just rolled in the back of her head.
I'm ready, man.
What is marvelous about you? What has God put in you that, that's a tough word, marvelous, but that's what the NLT hits it out of the park. These things are marvelous about me.
Yeah. Well, I can say I was raised by some pretty phenomenal parents that were so deeply in love with the Lord that it wasn't that, hey, you can do anything, you're perfect. Like they told me when I wasn't good at stuff, but there was that deeply ingrained, no, God made you special.
Yeah.
God knit you, all of that. And so I feel like I have a healthy foundation of that.
Yeah.
So I would say that ability to be able to, God has made me in a way, in that marvelous aspect, to be able to see people of opposing positions or opinions and to be able to hear them out, really hear them out and bring community where there's been destruction, bring love where there's just been hate. I love those situations where I can go in and help kind of hear everyone's side of things. And I honestly believe that's God's wiring and how he's made me unique. And when you said that everyone is probably this way,
right.
I remember many years thinking that, and only later on in life, it was specific people that continued kind of where my parents left off and I left home. Hey, here's what I see in you. And just those one little moments, like what you shared in your small group, that one moment, how life-changing that is when you share that with somebody. Hey, I don't know that you know this, but here's something really amazing about you, how God made you. That's powerful. I can think of specific moments in that in my life where people have spoken life and truth into me in that way. Yeah.
All right.
So
I know you've been freaking out over there. She's like a duck.
I tried to draw
you know
it
how
out.
a duck looks smooth on the surface?
feet are-
Underneath right now, her legs
feet are going.
Look at this. I think one of the things that Tyler's actually helped me notice is I'm really great at helping people just feel comfortable with who they are and feel like they can be themselves around me. He's pointed that out. Like, I'm a 9, he's a 4. And so he's like, oh yeah, he's like, I love that. Like, I can just be myself and actually feel comfortable. So I feel like I'm good at that of like, you can just be who you are with me. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to treat you differently. You can feel comfortable to be yourself around me. So I think that's one of the things that,
even the little bit of time that I've got to spend with you, I would totally say that's true.
Oh, awesome.
Like welcoming in, hey, come on in. We're a situation that could be kind of nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, come on in. Like you definitely have that vibe, I would say. About
So the second half of that question was allow people in your group to speak into it, and I think that was really helpful because I think the question would have stalled,
like
would have gone nowhere. And
do you guys have the situation where people will try to like, hey, can we skip to the next one? Every week.
That's usually me. I'm like,
hold on.
Yeah. That one was too real. Can we not live our vision?
Can we not? Yeah.
Can we not live the vision of authenticity? It was, I don't know, last night, and I felt like, and just, again, many of you guys, you're not in community group, you're not looking at those questions, but so much of the growth and so much of what God has to say to you is not just in the message, but it's through your own words and the words of the people in your community group where the Holy Spirit continues to speak. And then when you look at the self-reflection that's below it, man, and especially if you're a person, I know we have a question from somebody who is really having a hard time seeing the beauty in them, really working through that, because David wrote Psalm 139. He's the same guy who said, surely I was a sinner since the day I was born. So the guy struggled with self-worth and struggled with inadequacy and yet trusted God that, man, God's made something amazing about me and in me. And again, God doesn't make junk.
It's powerful, man, when someone speaks into your life in that way. It's life-changing.
Yeah. So if you're not in a group, we would love to help you get one started even. So maybe if you're not near the Sandals Church campus or you don't know who to start a group with, you can actually start your own group. Just grab a couple friends. We've got all the materials you need. Go to sandalschurch.com/groups and we'll get you started.
Are they still in those cool little boxes?
Yeah, we give out these boxes that have everything you need to start a group, including some
Those are great.
It's the box
fun little
of wonder.
conversation starters.
That's right.
Yeah, don't miss out on being in a group. They're incredible. And we can also help you find a group near you if you need that as well.
We waited 2 years. I know. It's real, right?
I'm judging you.
I feel it. We got one of the box. We're doing it, babe. We're doing it. And then it wasn't until I can't remember. It was you, maybe Claude. It was a while ago. Said there's never going to be a perfect time. There's never going to be a perfect time to start a group. There's always going to be a reason why not to. And we went home and talked. I said, you know what? Let's just do it. It's not perfect. The schedule actually, it doesn't make sense right now, but we want to make it a priority. And we are honestly, every week we look at each other when we have to kind of get the house ready and stuff. We're like, okay, should we still do this? Yeah. And then as soon as the people show up, it's like, yes, absolutely. These are our family. Yeah. Like we really feel that way. This is our family. Oh, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, and I would say this, our group now started off so bad because we have strong 8s that my wife was like, I think we made a mistake. And I was telling her last night, I said, this has been one of my favorite groups.
That's cool.
So don't judge the group based upon your initial reaction and just know that,
that's good.
Man, if you hang in there and we've had to slug it out in our group. Like we've had to have some like come to Jesus moments. Sure. We had somebody in our group last night say he didn't want to come because he knew. And he did know, and we brought it. And because we're there to hold each other accountable and to encourage each other to follow Christ, and that's not always easy, especially when you're not doing it.
Right.
And but man, it was just a really, really powerful night, and it was great. And so we ended with prayer, and we got done, and then someone said in the group, "Man, I need some more prayer." And then just like
that's awesome.
Groups over, and they were just like, "I need prayer for this," and we're like, "Oh my gosh,
wow,
that's cool."
Yeah.
That's it.
High 5, high 8.
Okay.
Which means they know everything and won't share anything.
And won't tell anyone.
Right. So, and it came out. And so, so if you're like completely lost on this whole Enneagram stuff, we're going to do another series. I'm thinking in the fall, I'm going to call it Relational Remix.
Ooh.
And so instead of looking at the Enneagram for you, we're going to look at it in terms of relationships.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. So
that's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you don't know what we're talking about with all these numbers, we've got a whole set of episodes all about all the types of the Enneagram. So go ahead and go back a little bit and look at being real with the Enneagram. You can walk through each number and start to understand a little bit more about each of those personalities and how they work.
Is that content still online? I think maybe they pulled
the
it.
sermons are and the debrief episodes are.
Okay.
If you want to take the actual test to find out what you are, you have to participate in our real workshops here at Sandals Church.
Right.
Otherwise, you can get all the content.
Cool.
Yeah, get the app. That's where it's at. I love
yeah.
the app. The Sandals app is amazing.
Yeah.
It's a great app.
So let's go ahead and dive into the questions today. And I'm actually going to pull up one of the ones we had
I
later.
already preached the message.
You did already preach the message. We're not going to go
Nailed
back over that.
Yeah.
But actually, somebody wrote in about this weekend's sermon on the same topic that we were just talking about with what she went over in small group, where she called herself Average Annie. And she said, this weekend's sermon was so contrary to what I've been told my whole life. Growing up, my parents always said that God just made me average and ordinary, that my sister got the beauty, my brother got the brains, and I got the leftover genes. I've been average in everything my whole life. I'm not gifted in any one area. I'm just decent in many things. How does an average person discover their talents?
Yeah. Well, I'd like to have an average conversation with your parents.
Oh, man.
And
Heart breaks.
Good news, my brother here's got his camo pants on. So we're going to
I feel like my snowman mug is balancing this out.
Yeah,
it's not.
It says, hey, I'm here for fun.
So we're going to take your parents to the shed.
Yeah.
To the woodshed.
Seriously, though.
Yeah, no,
Man.
because, I mean, the reality is, her name was what?
She called herself Average Annie.
Average Annie. There's nothing average about you. And so the worst thing that parents can do is compare their children. Every child is unique and their own person. And I have 3 children, and there's really, it's hard to believe that they came from the same 2 people.
Yeah.
They're extraordinarily
So
different, and they have different strengths and gifts. And so here's what I would say is, assuming your sister is beautiful, right? People tend to point out the low-hanging fruit, right? So things that we can see. And so oftentimes the greatest strengths it's not the fruit, it's the root. And so this deep, deep strength that's in you is something that's helped you have to navigate between a sister and a brother who've gotten all the attention. And so don't waste that experience, because that's going to make you much stronger. Because oftentimes beautiful people, they crumble under pressure. They don't know what to do because things have been handed to them in life. And, super talented or whatever, So like I talked this weekend about how I have mild dyslexia, where
Me too, by the way.
you
I'm
do too.
with you,
So do you have problems with B, P, and D?
Oh, yeah.
So those
and
are
the floating. Oh,
the
gosh.
floating. So, oh my gosh. So you can imagine in Greek, right?
Yeah.
In Greek, it was brutal. And so I used to get so frustrated because, God, you've called me to do this. And so these guys are getting 105, 110%. So the problem with Greek, when you take it, is you can actually get a lower score than 0. So it's terrible because you can get the definition of the word wrong, you can get the tense of the word wrong, you can get the spelling of the word wrong. I mean, there's like 5 different things you can get wrong, and you have to get them all right. So like I took tests where it would have been better if I didn't show up.
Oh, man.
So and it was just simply because the words bounced around, and I had to find a language teacher that talked. And once I found a language teacher that talked, I was like, fine. But all those guys, none of them are doing well in ministry. The classroom was safe. It was easy, right? And people don't make sense like academics. And so I've watched all those people, and they just look at me and they're like, I don't understand why God would use you. I mean, they're just jerks. So, and some of them are divorced and they haven't done well relationally. And so oftentimes we stare at the low-hanging fruit. This person's pretty, that person's smart, this person's athletic. And those people really struggle in life, whereas a lot of us who are late bloomers, and that's what I'm going to say you're coming into your own and you're learning who you are. And so the first thing you have to do is stop trusting the negative things your parents have said about you. And you have to start trusting the positive things your Father in heaven has said about you. And what he's saying is, he made you you. And again, you don't see yourself, and your parents don't see yourself the way you truly are. And so you got to surround yourself with people that love you, believe in you, care about you, and want to see you succeed. You see, that's one of the ways that you can tell a true Christian. They want to see you succeed. They're not jealous of your skill. They're not envious of your success. They are coming around you and celebrating God's unique glory in you. And so the first thing you need to do is not trust yourself, but trust God. And then slowly God will help you to trust yourself. And I would encourage you to get in some counseling and just air out some of these horrific things that have been said to you because, and if you're a parent listening, we all say bad things to our kids. We have bad thoughts. We have bad moments. What I've had to do is immediately come back and say, Dad was wrong.
Yes.
That is not true. I spoke out of frustration, anger, sin. And I've looked my kids in the face. I need you to forgive me. And then I restate the truth of who they are and what they are. Because, man, parenting is not easy. It is not easy. So
yeah, and as much as you want to, as I read this, as I share it with you, man, I get frustrated with these parents. Like, how could you? But you wonder, what was their experience? What was there? But maybe no one ever spoke that truth into their life as well. And that's hard, I think, as a young person to get your head around that your parents, maybe they had things that they had to go through and they're doing the best with what they got, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So you wonder, you don't know the whole situation, but man, to think about, I have a daughter that's 4 and she put on a new dress and she came and just looked and waited for me to say, am I enough? Am I beautiful? And those little moments, man, like to hear someone say, I'm just average. God does not see you that way.
Yeah.
And I love, it ties in with what you spoke about this weekend about the self-talk, some of that negative self-talk, how damaging that can be. And you roll those ideas in your head over and over again, and you end up just really grabbing onto the lies. How do you deal with that? Some of that self-talk stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you've been on stage, both of you had, you perform and it's always, I think it's okay to evaluate.
Sure.
But don't destroy yourself. And so the good news is if I prepared, if I planned, God's going to use that message somehow, some way to speak to people, and I have to trust him in that. So are there things I can do? Is there sin that I need to confess? Is there a skill that I need to enhance or work on? Absolutely. But God has called me to do this, and I'm going to trust him in that. And if you're a parent, you're called. Like, right, you're called. God is the author of life. So you're now called. And we went to see Creed this weekend. We've seen Creed. And so there's a moment in the film that I'm not giving away the story, but he discovers that he's going to be a parent. And his fiance, they're not married yet, but his fiance says, I'm not ready. And I love what he says. Then we need to get ready. And I love that. I just love that. Like, okay, we're not ready, but we need to get ready and we need to do this because God's called us to this. Now, he doesn't say that in the movie, but I'm telling you, God's called you to be a parent and you need to get ready. And so I just think we all need to be aware of self-talk. And again, go back to Genesis 3. Genesis 3, whenever you're trying to understand anything about the Bible, the root of everything is Genesis 3. God says, Adam, where are you? And Adam says, I'm hiding because I'm naked. And God asks us just a question. Who told you you were naked? So shame, and never forget this, shame is the gift of sin. Shame is. So, and we think of gifts as positive, but the gift of sin is shame. They feel ashamed. And so it started with whispers of inadequacy. God doesn't want you to eat this because you're missing out on something. You're not enough. Yeah. If you eat this fruit, you will be. And so that's what the devil does, right? He's the deceiver. And you got to think about this. This came up in small group last night. Many of us have forgotten we have a personal savior and we have a personal deceiver. And he whispers and he speaks. And sometimes, just like the Holy Spirit can use my mouth to speak to you, the deceiver can use your parents' mouth to speak to you, can use a boyfriend's mouth, an ex or a girlfriend. Like he can use words. He can use your own thoughts. I'm not good enough. I'm ugly. I'm fat. I'm not this or I'm not that. And we have these extraordinary moments of just raw insecurity, and we have to deal with that. And I've dealt with it my whole life. And I've just constantly had to say, okay, God's not called me to be something I'm not. He's called me to give what I have and lay it at the table. Like I'm a living sacrifice. And it was interesting last night. Man, we just had a great small group. But one of our guys, Adam, talked about the different offerings in the Old Testament, like the burnt offering and the meal offering, and then the blood offering, and what that meant. And it was just so powerful. The burnt offering, right, is here, God, take it all. It's gone. But the meal offering is something that we share with God. It's bringing what we have and sharing it with the Lord. And then the blood is just asking for blessing. But it's just so incredible. Like what we need to do is, right, when we come to Christ, that's the burnt offering. Boom, take it all. But the Romans 12:2, live a living sacrifice, man, that's sharing. Okay, God, you've given me these gifts. You've given me this money. I'm going to share this with you. And I'm going to use this for your glory. And we're not held accountable for gifts we don't have. We don't all, and here's why we feel insecure, because we recognize, which is true, I don't have your gifts. I don't have your gifts. Well, that must mean I'm not. No, it means...
That's that next step.
Yeah, it means I'm not you and I'm not you. I'm me. So what must I do? And we're so outwardly focused. And I think that, man, that's what I noticed last night in small group is these people that I love that are mature. I've been working out for 20 years, real with self. So when somebody asks me, hey, what's wrong with your life? Man, let's chat.
I'm there. You're already there. Yeah.
But if somebody says, hey, what's great about your life? What's marvelous? I can also, here, I know what my gifts are and I know what my strengths are. And it wasn't a spiritual gifts test. It was just learning, and paying attention to yourself, paying attention to how people experience you, paying attention to how God uses you. And man, every single one of us has something to bring. And so the parable of the talents, right? The parable of the 5, the 2, and the 1, they're not accountable. The guy with 5 is not accountable for 6. The guy with 2 is not accountable for 3. The guy with 1 is not accountable for 2. What they're accountable for is to bring what they have. And the rewards, here's what's great, is not based on what they started with, it's what they did with it. And so that's the beauty. And so let me find that one talent that I'm good at. And let's be honest, there are people that are just extraordinarily talented. Just praise God that's not you.
Yeah.
Because on Judgment Day, man, that's going to be a long conversation. They're just are extraordinary people. And it's okay to look at that. And here's what I would say, look at that. And like if a woman is more beautiful than you, whatever that means, right? Give glory to God. God creates beauty, but he also creates diversity. He's not interested in everyone looking the same way. And so, people with beauty have to have certain strengths in order to handle that, right? You have to be extraordinarily strong not to become prideful, vain, self-conceited. Those are things that made the devil who he is. And just because something is beautiful is not because it's good. I want to write this book called Sex Drive. And one of the things I talk about it is not trusting beauty. And in nature, when something is beautiful, it's usually poisonous.
Interesting. Yeah.
So if you guys want to Google this, it's the most gorgeous. I don't like snakes. Snakes creep me out. But if you want to Google a gorgeous snake, Google the white-lipped snake from Indonesia. It is the most spectacular thing you've ever seen. They don't know why, but they come out blue, like turquoise blue. And they have yellow eyes and white lips.
That's wild.
And when it bites you, it's wild. It's like it's bad news. Like you're gonna be in bad shape. Yeah.
How big do they get?
Not very big. They're tree snakes in Indonesia. But man,
just beautiful.
Like you see it and you want to pet it. You're like, oh my gosh. And I think about what on earth must that snake have looked like in Genesis 3.
Sure.
Just gorgeous, right?
Sure.
And but man, oftentimes when something is spectacularly beautiful and colorful, nature is saying, don't touch.
Don't touch. Don't touch.
And so what do? We're like,
so
oh my gosh. And we're drawn to that. And I'm not saying that her sister's evil because she's beautiful. But, I remember, my wife's had 3 kids and you just had a kid and bodies change after children. That's just the reality. And we're sitting on the beach and some very attractive young women walked by and I saw my wife look and she looked at me and she literally said, do you wish I looked like that? I was like, no, I wish you looked like you. And so it's her own insecurity, right? She's not 20 something anymore. She's 43. And she said, but my body has all these scars. And I said, yeah, from my babies, from my babies, and again, nobody got the joke this weekend, but we think, you make love in the bedroom, you make love in the foxhole. That's where it is. It's in the battles, man. It's in the struggles. And, I remember when my wife was giving birth to Ethan, every time she would have a contraction, her heart rate and Ethan's heart rate dropped.
Wow.
But so did mine. I wasn't hooked up to a machine, but I can tell you my soul was dying in that room and I was terrified. And, they're coming in and they're making a decision. Are they going to cut my wife open right there? And the doctor just told me, if this baby's heart rate drops again, and we didn't know he was Ethan, but if his heart rate drops again,
we're going in.
Wow. And they're preparing. And I'm just like, it was terrifying to me. And my son is such a gift, such an amazing gift. And my girls are gifts. And they call it labor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
yeah. I mean, it's
work.
And did I tell you I passed out in the first one?
Oh, no.
For reals. I'm hardcore, dude.
Like,
okay, so
late in the game, or did you make it a while?
Tammy's like bearing down.
Oh,
She's going to hate me that I said that. And the nurse says, get a chair. And I remember thinking, well, she's already...
For who?
She's already lying down.
You were circling.
Dude, and next thing you know, I'm sitting in that chair. And...
oh, yeah.
Oh, it's so stressful. It was just, oh my gosh. But, she did that, right? I don't want to be graphic, but her breasts fed my kids. I mean, it's changed the way I view her. And when I dated, I had one category, hot.
Sure.
Right? Which is contrary. That's another book I want to write, things I wish I knew about dating. And and so, man, I'm so blessed at who she is. And I love her because of the foxhole. And people don't know what a foxhole is, but it's a whole...
Sorry, guys.
What are you doing over there?
Oh, we're grooving.
Fix something here.
Stephanie is having a moment.
Throwing the music in for the foxhole.
Yeah.
This is a remix in the foxhole. That's good. But in the foxhole, in battle.
In battle, when bombs are going off, and so many people they think, oh, this is judgment, man. I think God is producing love, right? When you read 1 Corinthians 13, love is patient, kind. You're like it never gives up. It never gives in, right?
Yeah.
That's foxhole, man. I mean, you've gone through this just difficult stuff. And I'm so thankful for my wife, and I'm so thankful for what we've gone through together and the struggles that we've had. And so anyways.
There's the depth, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. We got way off back to...
That's great.
It kind of ties in with this question that I was looking at here.
You're going to change the subject on me?
Yeah, I am. No.
Was it Average Annie?
Yeah, Average Annie.
We love you, Average Annie.
She's, you are beautifully, wonderfully made.
Yeah,
by
amen.
God.
There's nothing average about you.
Absolutely. There was a lot of things about fear that were discussed in here. A lot of things about thankfulness, obviously. And so Jenny says, in your sermon a few weeks ago, you talked about anger versus thankfulness. I left feeling like I'm absolute failure because I'm angry with my husband. Last year, I found out he's had an ongoing affair throughout our entire marriage. He's made a sham of our marriage with his double life. And while he was claiming to be a Christian husband, we've recently reconciled after a year apart and are seeking God to restore and direct this broken union. But I'm so angry and hurt at the way he's treated me and my family. Makes sense. And after hearing your point, lingering anger, after hearing your point that lingering anger is demonic, I now am feeling like I'm wrong for being angry with his choices. How do I let go of this deep anger and hurt for such a devastating betrayal?
Right. Well, the first thing you need to do is completely feel the anger. So emotions were made to be felt. And so part of you, I'm guessing, was probably afraid to feel the full wrath of your anger because that might have meant you lost him. So out of fear, you didn't completely... unload your anger. And so that's how we deal with anger. It's not that we never feel anger. It's that you let it rip, man. You let it come out. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. Yeah. Okay? So here it comes. And your husband, if we can even call him that, deserves every ounce of your anger. I love that you use the word sham. The issue here is not restoration. The issue is maybe a first marriage. Because if he's been unfaithful throughout the process, he has never left and cleft. He has never honored anything that he said. And he said words, but that's all they were. So what I would say is you were never married in the first place. You just weren't. You stood on stage, you got dressed up, hey, it was a great play. Yay. But it was not real. Even if it was real for you, it takes two individuals to say something and do something. And so he has to come full circle to that. And I think he needs, in counseling, he needs to feel the full force of your anger. Don't commit a crime.
Sure.
Don't go to jail, but you've got to get it out. I would say you got to scream at him. That's got to happen. And if he wants this marriage to work, he's got to take it.
Right.
He's got to take it like a man and he's got to handle it, and you got to let it rip. And some of your family may need to let it rip. But here's the thing is, you get it out, then you give it to God. That's what you do. So I'm not saying you should not feel angry. I'm saying you speak your truth, you let it out, you feel the full force of your anger, but you do not hold on to that. You hand it over to God. And here's what God promises. God promises that if your husband doesn't repent, if he doesn't make it right, if he doesn't confess his sins, your kindness and your graciousness will be hot coals on his head on the day of judgment.
Yeah.
So God's anger will drip on him. And so that's the thing as Christians is, if we hold on to our anger destroys us. It gives the devil an invitation into our life. If we hand our anger over to God, God promises that he will execute wrath in the right way.
Right.
That's the difference between us and God is, when you look at so much of the law in the Old Testament, the Hebrew Bible, it's how to execute anger. What do you do? And so, people say stupid things all the time. It drives me crazy when people say, oh, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. Like that was a bad thing. People don't realize that was a muffler on anger. So what it's saying is, if you knock out my tooth, I only can knock out your tooth. I don't get to kill you, your wife, your kids, your whatever. And so, a lot of people don't realize this, but American law, and this is one of the key differences, is as we interact with Muslim countries, American law is based upon Judeo-Christian law, which is when you do something, we don't hold your wife accountable, we don't hold your kids accountable, we don't hold your it stops with you.
Right.
And people think that's American. It's biblical. And so, man, so much of the law, it's a muffler on, you don't get to do this. There has to be a trial. There has to be witnesses. Right? I mean, think about this, right? But God's trying to help us control this thing that if it gets out of hand, man, it just goes crazy. And so that's what we have to deal with. We have to figure out how to exercise our anger in a righteous way. The Apostle Paul and Barnabas get into it, man, and it gets heated, and they go separate ways. Now, eventually we know they make it right. And Mark joins the Apostle Paul back on the mission field. So we have to allow grace and forgiveness. But before you can forgive your husband, you got to be angry at him. You've got to feel it all. Because here's what you don't want. What you don't want is a fake marriage where you're constantly beating him up, especially if he's genuinely repentant. If he's truly changed. And this is the man that you want, and this is the life that you want. Don't destroy it. And that's what I see.
Anger's going to come out.
That's what I see a lot of women do, especially, is they give partial forgiveness, which is not forgiveness. And so you have to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to honor you in this, and I'm going to follow you as my husband. Now he's got to be trustworthy, right? I mean, he's going to have to prove
there's a long
himself.
Road. There's a long road. What would you say then is that? How do you know when you've crossed into that? Okay, my anger, like she's saying, is in that demonic. Like it's really now. How long do you sit in that compared to? All right, now I'm ready to hand this.
I would say give it one full day of just let it out. Scream, punch a pillow. Just get it out. Tell God how angry you are. Tell him how angry you are. Tell him how hurtful this has been, how embarrassing this is. And here's how you know if he's changed. If he's changed, he'll take it. He won't make excuses. Here's how you know when someone's repentant. Someone is repentant when they don't care who knows. So let me give you a great example. You guys know King Saul and King David. Both of them sinned. When King Saul sins, he accepts it. The prophet speaks to him. But then King Saul says, please restore me in front of my men because you've embarrassed me. David doesn't care who knows. I have sinned. He weeps. He mourns. It's public. So Saul...
Write songs about it.
Saul, had personal shame, but it wasn't godly shame. What she needs is her husband needs to have godly shame.
That's good.
And he needs to bring it to the throne. And when you have godly shame, you're not covering for yourself. You're not trying to,
spin it.
I'm a 3, right? So, image. How does this make me look? You just say, here's what happened. We just had an instance at Sandals 2 weeks ago where I'd made a decision and it negatively impacted one of our departments. So I went to the head of the department. I said, this is on me. This was my mistake. I was wrong. I said, I know you have to handle this, but this is on me. And it was interesting. He looks at me, he goes, I've never experienced that in church. And I thought, how tragic.
Wow. Yeah.
How tragic. Like, right? So that's what leaders do, is we model when we've blown it, when we made mistakes. When my wife and I are fighting or arguing, if I know that I'm in sin, I'll literally say, I've sinned, please forgive me. It's not about, but my point was, well, what I meant to say was, none of that's godly. None of that is godly. All of that is, you're trying to cover, you're trying to make excuses. What does Adam say? God says, did you eat the apple? It wasn't me, it was the woman you gave me. Right. There's no comma after, I'm sorry, but it's just, I'm sorry. And so that's how she knows, is he willing to talk about it? And that's what a lot of women do, is they don't want their husband to be embarrassed. Why? He shamed you and your family. I mean, here's the thing. If I've hurt my wife, I don't care what you guys think. I care what she thinks. Right. You know? I mean, that's the thing that, I don't know if you've ever been in accountability groups, but it always cracks me up. Oh, well, who's accountable? Look, if I can lie to my wife, I can lie to you. Yeah. I mean, it blows my mind. Like, if I'm willing to cheat on my wife and create an alternative lifestyle, man, what in the heck is an accountability group going to do? Yeah. And I've experienced that so many times. It's not accountability that I seek, it's righteousness. And that's what I'm trying to be. And I want to live right and do what's right. I spent enough time sinning. It was rough. Yeah. It was really rough. And, that verse we had this weekend where it said, thank God for Jesus Christ. He has helped us overcome sin and death. Right. I started thinking about in my own life, all the sins I just so deeply struggled with. And the Lord has helped me out of so many of those struggles. Now, it wasn't overnight. Sure. It was years of road. Battling and trusting and just, oh my gosh, Lord, I just need help. And it's amazing. And I've still got a lot of sins to work on, but it's amazing. I'm 40, my mid 40s. I'm like, oh my gosh, he has set me free from so much of this stuff. And gosh, that's blessed my marriage and all that stuff. So that's how you know repentance. When people are genuinely repentant, and just let me say this, when someone is genuinely repentant, we are mandated by Scripture to forgive. And a lot of people don't realize, when Peter says, how many times must I forgive my brother? Jesus says, every time they repent and come to you. Nobody ever notices that, right? Nobody ever if they're genuinely sorry, we must forgive them. Did you guys see, oh gosh, what's that movie? The Francis Ford Coppola movie about the missionaries in Japan. So good. Silence?
Yeah, I think so.
No. Oh my gosh. Okay. If you want to wreck your weekend, like if you guys are like, you know what? I've had too much joy in my life. Watch Silence. It will literally destroy you. Wow. Like
True story, obviously.
I needed counseling
you should do some movie reviews.
Oh my gosh. I needed counseling. The movie is so good. But there's a young Japanese guy in the movie and his family's converted to Christianity. And he just blows it over and over, betrays his family, like walks away, is not faithful, but he constantly runs back and he begs the priest for forgiveness. And every time the priest forgives him and he's genuinely sorry. And at the end of the movie, he just says, I don't understand why God had me born in this time. Had I been born 100 years earlier, Christianity would have been easy because the Japanese emperor decided at one point, Christianity was okay, and then they decided it's not okay. But boy, I mean, in that movie, people have died. Like because he betrays them, people die in that movie, and he's sorry. That movie, dude. I'm serious. Like you need like a pick me up after that. Yeah, like maybe Mary Poppins or something.
Like we have like cleanser shows we watch after stuff like that. So.
Cleanser show. Yeah, like that. That's good.
Kennedy and my middle daughter watched that, and after it was over, she goes, "I don't think I'm okay, Dad." And I was like,
"I'm not either. Yeah, I got to work on this." Yeah,
watching. Those are good. So much of colonialism, right? And a lot of it was evil, but a lot of it, there were Christians that were serious about taking the gospel to places where people did not know it, and these Jesuit priests. I believe they're from Spain. I can't remember where they are. They're serious about the gospel, and they die for it. Yeah. And the Japanese are not kind. It is horrifically evil.
It sets a whole other perspective. Oh, it does. Yeah. It really does. Yeah. Gets you off the couch. Gets me off the couch. When I watch something like that, I gotta go tell some. I gotta do something.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Wow.
Yeah. All right. So Jeff wrote in, actually, I think this goes back to our conversation some from the beginning. He says, this week during the message, you mentioned that you dealt with fear and anxiety a lot in your 30s. Being a 3 and feeling like you need to achieve in order to feel loved and like you couldn't live up to the standard you had created for yourself is a recipe for constant feelings of never being enough. What's your best advice for a 3 when it comes to allowing God to be fully in control, but simultaneously using the gifts that he gave you, like that drive to achieve and do it yourself? Though I know I'm wrong, it feels like the two completely contradict each other.
Okay. Wow. That was like a lot. So let's, if you don't know what a 3 is, a 3 on our on the Enneagram is the achiever, the, what's another name for it? The, the successful person. Yeah, right. There's various names for it, but basically you're driven to do something great. Mm-hmm. So here's the thing for the 3, right? You're only going to be as great as your talent can take you. Mm. So every 3 at some point is going to have a come to Jesus moment. And so like you experience this in athletics. So in athletics, very quickly, you can be very passionate about basketball, football, in the arts. You were in the Hollywood industry, right? So like everybody's going to Hollywood and, I'm gonna be a big star. Well, yeah, you and every other super talented person
that's right.
in the world. And so the more competitive a field you choose, the harder it is to be great at it. And that's just the reality. And so every 3 is going to have a come to Jesus moment between what they thought their life was going to be and what it is. Mm-hmm. And for me, that was 40. I turned 40 and that's when I realized it hit me. Okay, my life is not what it is. And so some of you say, oh, your life's been great. Well, okay, you're not a 3. So, I look at my friend Mark Driscoll and other guys that just completely outpaced me in terms of book writing, church size, success, speaking at all of the, whatever. And that just didn't happen for me. It just didn't happen. Sandals is, I don't know. I should know I'm a 3. The 32nd largest church in America. So think about it, of all the churches in America, 32nd largest church. That's amazing. But that's not what I thought we would be. I thought we'd be number 1. Because I'm an unhealthy 3, right? So what I had to do is I had to learn is, okay, my job is not to be successful. My job is to be faithful with the gifts and talents God's given me. And that's what the 3 has to do. So, ambition is okay until it's not. Because, 3s can become so goal-oriented, they're not God-oriented. So, yeah, I'm just tweeting myself here.
That's good.
And you've got to look at that. And so like I'm doing my last Ironman a week from now. And Ironmans are great reality checks for 3s. Because like if you're not in sports, you don't know exactly where you are. So sports tell you exactly where you are. Ironman emails me of all the triathletes in your age group. Here's your rank. And I think it's like 700th. It's really bad. I mean, these are people my age. So it's not like, well, I'm so much older.
It's a young guy, yeah.
We're going to chop off some decades.
Yeah. So, and that just means there's a lot of people that are a lot more fit than I am. And you just have to deal with that and embrace that and trust God where you are, not where you think you should be. That's just so important. And 3s get so unhealthy in that. Very few of us are going to be millionaires. Even less of us are going to be billionaires. Most of us will never be famous, and that's okay. Yeah. And as I have grown, I can't tell you how many times I am thankful that Tammy and I are not more famous than we are, because there's pressures and there's things that I was not aware of that come with notoriety, and they're not good things.
Yeah.
Sure.
People have an opinion about famous people, whether they know
Everyone
you or not.
does, yeah.
And look at our society. It's usually not nice.
Yeah.
Right.
No one spends a lot of time talking about all the great aspects of people.
That's not going to sell.
No.
That's the problem.
Yeah, no. Even on our staff, you guys are on our staff. I mean, how many meetings are just centered around how amazing Matt is? Right? It's concerns.
All of my meetings.
Yeah, right.
All of them.
Concerns, what's going wrong? I don't know. Maybe he's gone nuts. So it's just very, very difficult. And just say, God, help me to never be beyond where you want me to be. Because some people find themselves in situations
That's good.
where it's like Donald Trump, right? Yeah, I could be president. And there's got to be that moment, right? Where all of a sudden it happens and you're like, oh,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting in his question here, he talks about standards that he created for himself and kind of dealing with that. How have you found that as a high 3? I have a high 3. That's my second highest score is 3. And I've wrestled with that as well. Like, are these God standards for me? Which ultimately is what it comes down to. How have you wrestled through some of that and when it comes to standards?
Yeah. So the first thing is I've got to make sure that I create the right standards. So where does God want me to be excellent? So early on, I was excellent in a lot of ways, but not in my marriage. So my marriage was a mess, and I was a pastor of a growing church. Oops. Right? So that was a real problem. And so I realized, okay, my first calling is to my marriage and my wife, and I'm married to a 6, right, who's afraid of everything. And so I'm a 3 who just wants to just take over the world, right? So that's an interesting, dynamic in our marriage. My wife was also raised, very, very poor, struggling. She's a sexual abuse survivor. There's a lot of issues there that, so much of it, I had to say, okay, my job is to love the woman I married. So, when I was unhealthy, I would say, well, maybe I married the wrong person. Well,
interesting.
Because she's not wanting to be on this.
She's not falling in line.
She's not on the A train.
Yeah.
Right?
Interesting.
So then I realized my job, I had to redefine success. Success is loving her. As I've grown, success is making her feel safe. So the 6 desires safety. So I have to constantly create a world for her in which she feels safe and secure. Then she's supportive of what I'm doing. And it's not manipulative. It's just called loving your spouse. And so,
and knowing her where she's at.
My wife has made me much more family oriented than I think I would be. The men in my family are not family oriented. We're work oriented, and that's just how we are. So she's really helped me to understand. She's very focused on family. I think that's one of the qualities of her family. And she's, the counterphobic 6, she can draw that out like an 8 in me. I tell people that my wife's afraid of everything in the world but me. So, she comes at me full bore. So I've just had to really learn. And so, again, if you're a 6, it's too bad that, the what's Reinhold Niebuhr's prayer? The Serenity Prayer. It's too bad that we've only given that to drug addicts and alcoholics because it's a beautiful prayer. But what he writes about is accepting life as it is, which is impossible for the 3 because, right, we're visionary, we see forward, we see a better world. We see things as how they should be. And I think that it's important that I don't change that. I need to be visionary, but I need to be based in reality. Because if I'm constantly in vision mode, and I think that's where Tesla is. What's his name?
Elon Musk.
Elon Musk. So you take one of the most brilliant guys in the world, obviously a 3, but his family life is terrible. We hear the same thing about Steve Jobs, right? These guys, they just didn't understand where the win was.
Right.
And so Steve Jobs made beautiful things, but was terrible with people and terrible, with his family. And so we have to redefine success. I'm not called to be Steve Jobs. I'm called to follow Christ. So Steve Jobs doesn't have that. As far as I know, Elon Musk doesn't have that in his life either. And so we have to look at, okay, what does success look like? And so I was in counseling for about 3 years with a female counselor named Bobby. And the reason I chose a female counselor is because I discovered I had a problem listening to women. I just struggled. And, if you want to get better at listening to women, you need to force yourself in situations where you have to listen to a woman. And so I would pay her to listen to her. And so Bobby would ask me over and over again, and I was too young. I was in my mid-30s. How old are you?
35 in a couple days.
It's probably about your age.
Yeah.
And she could tell that I was wrestling with my lack of success. And she would always ask me, what price are you willing to pay?
That's good.
She would ask me that over and over again. She said, what are you willing to give? And I think, unfortunately, at the time, if I was honest, I would have been willing to sacrifice my wife and my 3 beautiful kids for my success. That's how unhealthy I was. And, I saw people leave our church, become far more successful, whatever that means.
Right.
And what we really mean by successful is well-known.
Right.
So that's what we need to quit calling it successful. We need to say famous. Is that successful? Rich. Is that successful? because a lot of rich people are miserable.
Right.
A lot of well-known people are miserable, and it's not success. So I had to redefine success, and part of me was saying, okay, God, I'm going to serve you where you've called me, and you've called me, to Sandals, which is in the Inland Empire. You've called me here, and I'm going to stay here, and I'm going to trust you in that. And I think the three has to present their goals to Christ, and then ultimately let him say no, because most of them are not about Christ at all. Even guys that are pastors of churches, it's not about Jesus. It's about the numbers. It's about, and you've got to constantly come back and say, okay, I've got to take a break here and say, okay, God, I got to care about my people. I got to move at the same pace of my people and minister to them. Because as a three, I can run ahead of them. So I just would really say, whoever this person is, it's a lifelong journey. Don't trust yourself. Your core sin is lying, and you will lie to yourself more than anybody else. Threes love to convince themselves they're doing God's work, when in reality, they're doing what they want.
And you're constantly assessing your standards, reassessing what that success is.
Yeah.
Well, our last question here comes from Elizabeth. She says, hi, I'm 17 years old and have been a Christian all my life. The last couple of years, I have found myself being very sad and having negative thoughts, even though I have a very supportive family and can always talk with them. And they're always telling me to think positive and be grateful for what I have. I still struggle with this, and I feel as if I shouldn't feel sad when I have a lot to be grateful for. I'm always very happy when I go to church and feel uplifted, but once it's been a couple of hours later, I start thinking negative again. So how do I stay positive and happy through the rest of the week?
Right. So a lot of people believe happiness is a feeling. Happiness is a choice that we work towards.
Yeah.
It's just like love. See, our culture is wrong on just about everything. So people think, oh, I fell in love, like you fell in a hole. No, you work for love. That's what you do. Happiness is something that we have to work for. It's something that we choose. Being thankful is choosing to focus. If you look at Philippians 4:6, right? So he says, don't worry about anything, but in everything with prayer and supplication, bring your requests to God with thanksgiving. And then the very next verses are focus on whatever is good, honorable, right, and true, and worthy of praise. Think on these things.
Yes. Yeah.
So Paul's admitting, right? It's not enough to pray.
Right.
We have to think.
Right.
And we have to think about what's good. And so when you're feeling negative and you're a 17-year-old girl, which, we live in a culture that judges how you look. And the truth is, as a 17-year-old girl, you want to look 25.
Right.
You're not.
Right.
And when you're 25, which is hilarious, you don't feel like you look 25. So
there's always something comparing
in Hollywood, all those, I remember Beverly Hills 90210, they were all 30.
Right.
I'm like,
what is happening?
What is this?
Right. Well, and I think too, I remember my parents, when I was young, my dad had this saying. He would say, when it came to thinking, how we think, and when we're having negative thoughts and stuff, he would always challenge me in saying, take a whiff, meaning who's it from? That was take a whiff, when we'd have these negative thoughts. And coming from that 1 Corinthians 10, take every thought captive and make it obedient to Christ. And it's so powerful in that age when everything is compare. How have you found that, especially like with your kids and that kind of thing, where they're in the thick of it, of being compared with Elizabeth having those negative things immediately? What are some practical things that you'd say in taking those thoughts captive?
Yeah, again, I would listen to the people who love you. And it sounds like she's got a good family. They're bringing her to church. Those are good things. Listen to the sermon. So she says she feels good.
Right.
And what I would say is, let me translate that for you. You feel good when you're focused on God. But when you leave, you lose your focus.
Yeah.
Which is, right, that's what Paul goes right into Philippians 4. So give yourself more time to focus. Right. So surround yourself with some girlfriends who are focused on God. That's going to be hard to find when you're 17. But find some girls who are focused on God, not on boys, not overly focused on academics. It's, study, but right, that can be a whole devil in and of itself, because you are not your test scores. That is not the total, sum of who you are. You are more than a test. So what I would say is look at the people that you're around. And oftentimes you got to realize darkness loves darkness. Depressed people like depressed people. And so what's the old saying? Misery loves company. And so you've got to look for people who are more positive. And what I would encourage you to do is be critical, not just of who you date, but who you befriend.
Oh, yeah.
Who are the people that I'm allowing into my life? Because, there have been so many friendships, even at Sandals. This is hard for me to say, but there have been people that I've been so close with at Sandals that I've just had to say goodbye to because they just want to be negative. Like it's just, oh my gosh, I mean, are we still talking about that? That was 20 years ago. Right. What on earth? I can't remember what I ate for lunch yesterday, but so really, really be critical and be really wise in the way that you choose your friends.
Oh, yeah.
So in the Catholic Bible, in the book of Sirach, it's the book of wisdom. A lot of people don't know this, but there's 2 whole chapters on friendship, just dedicated to how you choose, what to look for, and what they should be like. There's some funky stuff in that book too. So that's just know that. Especially if you're a woman, there's some
there's some good takeaways. But
there's some good takeaways, man. It's really rough, especially if you're a child born out of wedlock. I'm glad that as Protestants they're like, eh. So, but the stuff on friendship is invaluable. I mean, it's just so important. And I've thought about writing like just something on some of the great moments in the book of Sirach. It's just, and again, if you're Catholic, it's in your Bible. It's in the Apocrypha, which means hidden or secondary.
Right.
So.
Well, what I love too is even like as a parent, especially if she's 17 years old, how important it is to be aware of the kids that your kid's friends with.
Yeah.
Like I was actually talking with my sister-in-law over Thanksgiving. She's like, oh yeah, I ran into the dad of one of my really close high school girlfriends who said, oh yeah, I prayed for you so much while you were growing up. Like she's a mom now. She's grown. And she ran into him. He's like, yeah, he's like, I prayed for you so much. He's like, I cared so much about who my daughter was friends with. So I spent a lot of time praying for you.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool for him to get to see like how she's grown up and everything now. But how important it is, like as her parents, to be praying for who her friends are too, and be aware of who she's friends with. It's that important.
Yeah, and what I would say is, it's better to be alone than to be with bad people. And so, if you can learn to live that one principle, you're going to be much happier in life. Because a lot of people get into relationships because they don't want to be alone, and ultimately, that relationship costs them just horrible things in their life. And the same thing is true with friends. And let me just say this to you, sweetie, you're 17. If people will talk about others when they're with you, they will talk about you when they're not with you.
Yeah.
So gossip just, man, that's just a really, really bad thing. And so surround yourself with people that are encouraging, that are uplifting, that see the beauty in people, that see the positive. I just think that that's so important, especially in a culture, right? We're all products of the culture that's negative, that's glass half empty. That's just our culture. And so we need to, it's going to be hard. And I'm asking you to do things that are beyond your level of maturity. So I'm asking you to trust me and find people that you can trust. And again, that's why we need people that are older than us in our life. In our culture, we write off wisdom and we write off age.
Yeah.
And the truth is there are some things I know that you don't know. And so you just need to trust me. Even if you don't believe it yet, trust me. If you can have one good girlfriend in your life, you're blessed. Just one. If you can find a guy that loves you, you're blessed. Those are rarities. Those are, Proverbs 31, who can find a good woman? Right? That's how it starts. It's, we're all mad at God because, and I walked with you through this, as Stephanie was single for quite a while. People act like love is easy. It's not. No. And so again, that's our expectations. I did a series, what was it called? Be Happy, or I can't remember. Beyond Happy, where, people expect happiness, and that's why we're miserable. Yeah. We need to be thrilled when something happens, and we're excited. And
and I would even say, pointing back to one of our earlier questions, I think it's important for her to be able to have a place where she can process those negative thoughts too, and it's okay to feel those feelings.
Yeah,
I'm even wondering. We talk about folks who are like the 4 in the Enneagram who are high in feelings, and you need to let yourself feel the feelings, work through it, but again, find a place to work forward and move forward out of that and pursue happiness, pursue joy. But it's also okay to feel the feelings for a little bit and not try to shove those down, not try to ignore that they're there. But as you're looking for those good friends, find people who are safe to share your negative thoughts and feelings with. Yeah. Because I know for me, it's been incredible. Once I kind of get them out and I say them out loud, like, well, these are all the terrible things I'm thinking and feeling, they're not so bad anymore. And I've had a safe people to talk about those with who don't, heap it on and say like,
They
oh
help
yeah,
you
that's so
process.
bad. They help me
Right.
process. They help me
Yeah.
move forward. They help me
Yeah.
look for what's good. But it's also okay, I think, to process and express those negative feelings and feel them for a
Yeah.
little bit and then move forward.
Yeah. So I would say feelings are like seasons, they change. And so if you're always in winter, that's a problem. But if you're always in summer,
That's a problem too.
you're in a Disney movie. So you've got to learn to feel that. And so the other thing I would say, sweetheart, is continue to talk with your parents. And if this is something that lasts, you need to see a therapist. That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Because again, your chemistry is not your character. And so some of us have biochemistry issues that are affecting the way that we feel. And there's an imbalance there. And we can be helped by having our chemistry altered. And so that is not a sin. That's something that I would pursue. I've never had to... that's not true. I've taken Xanax before, but I've never been on like Prozac or I'm trying to think of Zoloft or anything like that. But I have had. I take Xanax when I fly. I'm not a good flyer. I'm not. So like I've prayed about it. I've fasted. I take a Xanax. So it just helps me fly. So but watch that. That stuff's addictive. You got to be very, very careful because it can hook you. All that stuff can hook you.
But it's okay to seek professional help.
Yeah, it's okay to
with that.
seek professional help and to feel. And what I would say is don't try to numb your feelings with alcohol, especially with marijuana. I know a lot of the young people today are smoking marijuana, and it's the oil. Look, it's problematic, man. We're seeing psychotic episodes on a rise like we've never seen before. And because that oil that doesn't smell it's literally been, it's so funny to me, man. So like, so much of our movement is non-GMO. So we don't want our corn altered, but we're going to smoke weed that's altered. It's just like, look, it's either one way or the other.
Right.
And so they've chemically altered the way they manufacture this marijuana, and it's making people crazy. And so, so to just be careful that you don't self-medicate.
Right.
Make sure that you're with a doctor, you're walking through this with somebody, because what it shows is marijuana makes it worse.
Yeah.
So same thing with
Masks for
alcohol.
a time.
Yeah. It numbs you, but it doesn't help you.
It doesn't help you.
Yeah.
And I think part of that too, of that process of really taking every thought captive, it is like working out a new muscle.
Yeah.
If you've never done it before, if you've just taken everything in as truth, you have to begin to learn to say, well, hold on, that thought that I'm having right now, as I compare it to what does God say about me?
Right.
What are these people speaking into my life? As you learn to do that, at first it's kind of awkward.
Yeah,
it's like, what? But then it becomes a muscle. That's been my experience. It becomes a muscle to where then those thoughts, not that they go away per se, but it's what you do with them and how you process them. I love what you said about having people in your life that can help you process that is so powerful because you hear it out loud and then they can speak truth into it is very powerful.
Yeah. And I would just say this. Did she give us her name?
Elizabeth. Yeah.
Elizabeth. Man, I'm depressed every Sunday after church. So, and part of that is, right, like you guys see me all energetic. I mean, I'm out of my mind. You can't maintain that, right? Yeah. So like, I can't live at that level. Like people think I'm like that all the time. Like I would be neurotic if I was like that all the time. And so on Sunday afternoons, there's a natural withdrawal. There's a natural coming down, so to speak. And this is why a lot of performers turn to drugs because they don't know how to handle that crash.
Right.
So, you just got to know, like think about when you fly in an airplane, when you go up or you come down too quickly, right? There's a pressure change. Well, we feel that physically, but it also happens emotionally. And so the beauty of church is, right, for a second, we get to check out and check in on God. And that's a wonderful thing. And so what I would encourage you to do is when you're feeling dark or depressed, man, check in with God as quickly as you can. And especially as a young person, oftentimes it helps to check in with somebody else who loves God.
Yeah.
So that's really helpful.
That's good.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us for this episode. If you want to get some of the notes, you can check those out at debrief.show/127. We'll also throw links in there for how to start or join a community group here at Sandals Church. I think that's going to be incredible, especially as we're looking into the holidays and starting the new year. It's a great time to start or join a group. We would love to help you do that. So,
all right. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
I'll be praying for the deer that you're going to go kill now.
Yeah. I'll take him down.